welcome to the Monique Presley Show. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate you. And if you have not watched our show from earlier today with my dear friend and colleague Reese Colbert, please check it out. The title is What Had Happened Was, and man, is it good. We break down everything that was going on a few days ago when we were covering Don Lemon's channel while our friend and brother, unfortunately, lawlessly, absent justification, was being arrested and detained at the federal detention facility in Los Angeles. Thankfully, he is out on a signature bond and is awaiting a next court date. And I know that he will be fighting these charges with everything he's got vociferously. And he's got an army of folks that are standing beside him, behind him, around him, in front of him, all of the things in undergirding him in order to ensure that that is done. Reese and I talked about our thoughts about that, our thoughts about being involved that day. And we talked about Texas primaries and what is happening with that, the most recent scuttlebutt. Some of y'all are new to Texas politics. So you don't understand, like, that's what you're seeing is what it is. And you can't expect that because you are in a primary, Democratic primary, Republican primary, whatever the case may be, that some mud somewhere is going to be flung. It's a mudslinging competition too. And they're trying. The candidates for the Democratic nomination are doing their best. Where where one of the candidates is concerned, I don't know that the people who work for the candidate, the people who speak as ambassadors, James Carville, for the candidate, are doing their best. And so that might be why there are some difficulties, some problem areas. And they would do well to check that. I'm just saying, they would do well to watch for who you have speaking for you, because what can happen when you have people speaking for you who say things out their mouth that they shouldn't say, and it's Black History Month too, that's not good. That's not good. That's not the way that it should be. So anyway, go check that out. That dropped at 3 p.m. today. So other than what I just said, I'm not going to rehash those things. I need to talk to you guys about some other things that have been happening. And I'll need to talk to you about one thing in particular that has been happening, because I've been talking to you about it. Anytime we meet together, and welcome to everybody who's just joining. Thank you for being here. I hope that you will like the videos, give it a thumbs up. I hope that you will subscribe, please. Let the algorithm know that we are here and that we are still making it make sense for you, as we were over on IG. Now we are primarily on YouTube, but welcome, welcome, welcome. And if you found your way from Don Lemon's channel, if you are in the Lemon Nation, if you're a lemon head, welcome extra to you. I'm a lemon head. So I dig that. Please go ahead and comment also, because I try to catch as many comments as I can, ask as many questions as I can along the way. I'm not going to be here before you long, but I'm going to be before you strong. That sounded so preachy. But I've been talking about the midterms every day, really, for at least the past, since this year started, for sure. Maybe before that. And I told you that every year is an election year. Every season is an election season. There are always elections going on, but yes, these midterms matter. Yes, our lives depend upon it. Yes, it's probably the most important election cycle of our fledgling, failing democracy. So it does matter. Truly, it does. All elections matter, but this one decides if we're going to have any more. And they're trying to keep you from having any more. They're trying to keep us from having elections. I talked to you guys a couple of days ago about that business in Fulton County where we see people showing up who shouldn't even be there. Why is the director of national intelligence in Fulton County for some random warrant for a state issue? What is the D&I person doing there? And apparently then on the phone with the president of the United States, who then gets on the phone with the people who are there in the field responsible for collecting the information that the warrant gives them, allegedly, the right to collect ballots that have been counted and counted and counted and counted. Go look at Don Lemon's interview with Dr. Reverend Senator Raphael Warnock, where he talks about how many times this issue has been discussed, has been litigated, has been decided. And this madman who's in the White House, he didn't say it, I'm saying it. This madman in the White House, he can't let it be. He can't accept the fact that he lost, even though he knows all of this is really pretext. I'll get to that. But he doesn't want to accept it, because then if he accepts it, then he loses his rationale to try to keep us from having free and fair elections in the future, like in November. That's what this is really all about. And I've been telling you guys, midterms. Let me put it up. I'm not even going to wait until the end to put it up. I want to put it up for you like right now. Because if you don't know, if you're not sure whether you are registered to vote or not, that's what you need. Go there. Vote.org. Do you know? Do you know where you're going to? Do you like the things that life is showing you? I don't know. You don't need to know all that. But do you know if you're registered to vote? That's what you need to know right now. Are you registered to vote? That's what we all need to know. Peace and blessings to you too, friends. Welcome. Do you know? Come on, y'all. Vote.org if you don't. But don't take my word for the fact that they're trying to steal the elections. Here's what your president had to say just a couple of days ago. Let me get right to it.
These people were brought to our country to vote, and they vote illegally. And amazing that the Republicans aren't tougher on it. The Republicans should say, we want to take over. We should take over the voting in at least 15 places. The Republicans ought to nationalize the voting. And we have states that are so crooked, and they're counting votes. We have states that I won that show I didn't win. Now you're going to see something in Georgia where they were able to get, with a court order, the ballots. You're going to see some interesting things come out. But, like the 2020 election, I won that election by so much. Everybody does it.
Let's just listen through once again.
These people were brought to our country to vote, and they vote illegally. And amazing that the Republicans aren't tougher on it. The Republicans should say, we want to take over. We should take over the voting in at least 15 places. The Republicans ought to nationalize the voting. And we have states that are so crooked, and they're counting votes. We have states that I won that show I didn't win. Now you're going to see something in Georgia where they were able to get, with a court order, the ballots. You're going to see some interesting things come out. But, like the 2020 election, I won that election by so much. Everybody does it.
Everybody knows it. He won that election by so much. Remember, go look at my IG feed and go look here where I pointed out the one thing that got said at the debacle in Davos that people weren't paying nearly enough attention to, was where he said it was a rigged election. Everybody knows 2020 was a rigged election. They found out, they have evidence now, and people are going to pay. People are going to be held accountable for the rigged election. And so then the next week, Fulton County, there's a raid, an FBI raid of the election offices, the place where they store the ballots. And our vote, our ballot is supposed to be sacrosanct. It's supposed to be something that's kept safe. And so now they're rifling through it again. Who knows what they're doing with it? Who knows what they're going to come up with this new warrant that they went somewhere, found some judge under a rock to give them. It is completely and totally absurd, but that is where we are. And listen to what he said. He said the GOP needs to take it over. They need to nationalize the elections in certain places. In certain places. That's what Congress needs to do because it's so crooked. Then when a reporter asked him about it, you think he took it back? Heck no.
These people were brought to our country to vote, and they vote illegally. And amazing that the Republicans aren't tougher on it. The Republicans should say, we want to take over. We should take over the voting in at least 15 places. The Republicans ought to nationalize the voting. And we have states that are so crooked, and they're counting votes. We have states that I won that show I didn't win. Now you're going to see something in Georgia where they were able to get with a court order the ballots. You're going to see some interesting things come out. But, like the 2020 election, I won that election.
Exactly did you mean when you said that you should nationalize elections? And which 15 states are you talking about?
I want to see elections be honest. And if a state can't run an election, I think the people behind me should do something about it. Because, if you think about it, a state is an agent for the federal government in elections. I don't know why the federal government doesn't do them anyway. But when you see some of these states about how horribly they run their elections, what a disgrace it is, federal government should get involved. These are agents of the federal government to count the votes. If they can't count the votes legally and honestly, then somebody else should take over.
But the Constitution says it should be states that administer elections, Mr. President.
Yeah,
That's what the
you know what?
Constitution says.
They can administer the election, but they have to do it honestly.
Exactly did you mean when you said that you should nationalize elections? And which 15 states are you talking
I
about?
want to see elections be honest. And if a state can't run an election, I think the people behind me should do something about it. Because, if you think about it, a state is an agent for the federal government in elections. I don't know why the federal government doesn't do them anyway. But when you see some of these states about how horribly they run their elections, what a disgrace it is, federal government should get involved. These are agents of the federal government to count the votes. If they can't count the votes legally and honestly, then somebody else should take over.
But the Constitution says it should be states that administer elections, Mr. President.
Yeah,
That's what the Constitution
you know what?
says.
They can administer the election, but they have to do it honestly.
They can administer the election, but they have to do it honestly. That's what he says. Honestly. He says that the states are agents of the federal government. The states are agents, and he doesn't know why the federal government isn't doing it anyway. And the people behind him, there was Speaker Mike Johnson, lackey in chief, behind him, says they should do something about it. Now, people, of course, are up in arms. Some of them incredulously are acting like they don't remember that they're even in the Republican Party. The states' rights party, the Republic Party, the people who represent states like Texas, where we secede every other third year, just on GP, we trying to secede the union. States' rights, things that are reserved to the state, including decision-making, administration of voting. And he's calling states in a republic. In a republic. He's calling the states agents of the federal government. Do you know how far afield that is from the whole Constitution? But here's the thing. Don't miss it. Here's the thing. I'll show you what the Constitution says. How about we do that? And then we can figure the rest out from there. Because, he never says anything by accident. He's wackadoo, but he's criminal with a plan. It's never an accident. What does the Constitution say? Let me see if I can get myself to the side. Article 1, Section 4, Clause 1. The times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. But the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations, except as to the places of choosing senators. And this is from the Library of Congress, where I get my information about the Constitution. The Elections Clause gives the legislatures authority over Senate and House elections, but allows Congress to regulate such elections and thereby override state election laws. The only exception to Congress authority over state elections is the places of choosing senators. It became a nullity when the 17th Amendment superseded Article 1, Section 3, Clause 1 by providing for senators to be elected by popular votes rather than selected by state legislatures. How state and federal regulation of Senate and House elections interplay has been a topic of significant interest throughout the nation's history. I thought it might be helpful if we even read from what the Republicans say. The Committee on House Administration, which is right now led by the GOP. Republicans believe about the Elections Clause that states primary constitutional authority over elections. Republicans believe that every eligible voter who wants to vote must be able to do so, and all lawful votes must be counted according to state law. Through an examination of history, precedent, the framers' words, debates concerning ramification, the Supreme Court, and the Constitution itself, this document explains the constitutional division of power envisioned by the framers between the states and the federal government with respect to election administration. Article 1, Section 4 of the Constitution explains that the Senate have the primary authority over election administration, that the states, have the primary authority over election administration, the times, places, and manner of holding elections. Conversely, the Constitution grants Congress a purely secondary role to alter or create election laws only in the extreme cases of invasion, legislative neglect, or obstinate refusal to pass election laws. As do other aspects of our federal system, this division of sovereignty continues to serve to protect one of America's most precious freedoms, the right to vote. Is that clear? That's the GOP. That's the leaders of the Committee on Elections with the GOP-led Congress of these United States. Most sacrosanct of laws, the right to vote, reserved to the states. State sovereignty over the manner in which it is conducted. State laws control. Supreme Court case after Supreme Court case, except for these rare circumstances. Invasion, illegality, obstinance, and refusing to give people their right to vote. That's where the exceptions are. But you better believe that the exceptions exist, and this man knows it. And the people that are behind him, like Stephen Miller and the authors of Project 2025, they know it. So when they're trying to pull way back from 2020 and tell you that in Fulton County, Georgia, in 2020, there was a problem with the election and the election was rigged, what they're really trying to do is undermine the integrity of the election in the eyes of the voters and give justification for this GOP-led Congress to make exceptions in certain areas in certain states. He didn't say all states, he said 15. I wonder which 15 they were. Any guesses? Anyone? They know what they're doing. They know what they're attempting to do. It is not about 2020. He knows he lost. He's a madman. And he's likely a criminally minded fool. But the reasoning is that they understand it is going to be a virtual electoral bloodbath in November. Midterms, baby. Midterms. And they are looking for ways to remove from you, voter, and from you, state, from you, state elector, the right to determine the way voting is done. Snatching states' rights. Where are y'all, grand old party? Do you even exist anymore? Do you remember what you stood for? Has your identity crisis turned into complete lack of identity at all? It's just whatever. The madman, the emperor with no clothes, it's whatever he vomits out of his mouth. That's what you stand for now? Because he's saying the states shouldn't be doing it. He's saying the Congress needs to take over how voting happens because it needs to be fair. And it's only fair if he wins. That's what he's saying. It's only fair if he wins. Do y'all know whether you're registered to vote? Vote.org. Because I love what Miles Taylor said on Don Lemon's show yesterday. These midterms have to be too big to rig. The turnout, the registration, the actual votes, it has to leave no room for doubt. It has to be too big to rig. How many of us think they've already rigged elections? Elon with his little magic box where he knew that the election was won before it was won, knew it was happening in states before it happened. And then they try the regular so-called redistricting, which is gerrymandering, which is unlawful voter suppression. But now they're just coming out saying, oh, the feds should be doing the administration of the voting. These states, these United States are just agents of the federal government. Do y'all remember when the GOP used to be anti-centralized government, anti-big government, pro-states' rights, pro-self-determination? Is any of this even still in the history books? Maybe some of the members of Congress need to read it for themselves now. That might help. Y'all think that would help them? Because they are lost, child. And he does not care. We're going to keep bringing you the best information we possibly can. And no, I don't even pretend to be impartial. There's no reason for impartiality here. This is madness. This is lawlessness. From Minnesota to Arizona to Florida to California to Texas to Alabama to North Carolina, any place where they are doing what they're doing, we cannot trust it. And we have to remain ever vigilant. Do I think that that means we will not have an election in November? No, that's not what I think. That's why I keep telling you every day. Be sure you're registered to vote and your household is registered to vote. And then once you have that done, activate. Be an activist. Be an organizer. Get involved with local organizations and work in groups in order to secure freedom. And yes, that means we need to see a Democratic controlled House and a Democratic Party controlled Senate in November, because the GOP is the same as him. There's no differentiation between executive branch and legislative branch when the GOP is in control. They have no spines. They are the people who were surrounding the emperor when the emperor was butt naked and nobody was saying anything. That's who they are. And we cannot trust that. We at least have to have some checks, some balances in what is supposed to be three co-equal branches of government. Never mind the attacks on the Fourth Estate, the jailing of journalists like Don in Georgia, the attempts to mute other journalists, the intimidation tactics for mainstream media and their corporate overlords, owners. We've got to do something about it. And it's up to us. And we have the power to, but it starts with paying attention. Don't think he's just talking. He's not just talking. People put ideas in his head, and his head is easily bent toward the last thing he hears. And people who have worked for him talk about that. And if it's something that goes along with the way that he sees the world, I never lose, I always win. If I lose, it was a lie. They cheated. It's unfair. I don't break laws, but people who do things to me, they break laws. I shouldn't be punished for things that I do, but anybody who I think did anything wrong or anybody who won, they must have done something wrong, so they need to be punished. I get accused of, indicted for 34 felonies. I'm allowed to turn myself in to self-present with my lawyer. But journalists go and report on protests in the church, and 12 feds are sent to arrest them in the middle of the night. The system is failing. And so we have to be vigilant, and we have to act now in every single way that we can. That starts with the vote. Do I need to put it up one more time? Y'all need to see it one more time. It's real short, vote.org. You can also go to iwillvote.org, whenweallvote.org, the organization founded by forever First Lady Michelle Obama. You can go to any of those. And then listen, take action. I know I put these up every day. I probably will be putting them up every day till the first week of November, and then beyond. Take action. You want to call instead? Call 202-224-3121. Okay? Vote.org, right? Congress.gov, House.gov, Senate.gov. Tell these people, I'm not standing for it. You better not do it, especially if you are in so-called red states. Call if you need to call. Share this information with your elders who prefer to call than maybe to email in. Share all of this information with somebody else. All right? That's our action items. Please support independent journalism, independent media. I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you watching. The information, the ways that you can support us are below. On business PayPal, Cash App, as a subscriber, as a member. No gift too great or too small. We appreciate them all, because while we are here free to you, it's not free for us. And we want to keep bringing you the best information possible with the spirit of excellence. So thank you for your support. Please like, thumbs up, please subscribe, please support. Until next time, y'all stay safe out there.